Welcome to O'Talkin' with Dave. Coming to you from his palatial fortress in Sin City, where what happens in Vegas is talked about everywhere. Put your hands together for the pastor of positivity whose glass is always at least half full. Here's Dave.
Hey, how we doing out there? I hope you're great. I am top shelf and ready to go. I'm going to start with a story today, and it's a story about a Chinese farmer. Him and his son are living on a farm in China, and they don't have any money. They just have to work for what they've got, and it's a day-to-day situation. And they've got a horse that helps them with a lot of the work. But one day the horse leaves; it just runs off. And it's a small community, and everybody knows it. And so people come up to me, "Oh no, that's such bad luck. Your horse ran away." And the farmer just responds with, maybe. Then a few days later, the horse comes back with 2 more horses. And everybody's like, "Oh my goodness, what? This is great luck. Now you have 3 horses." And the farmer was like, maybe. And then the next day, the farmer's son is trying to break one of the wild horses so they could use it to farm. And he gets bucked off, and it breaks his leg. And people are coming by. He's like, "Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Your son's broken leg, and now he can't help you on the farm." Maybe. Then the next day, the military, they come by, and look, every young man that can serve, every well-abled young man has to go into the military. We're taking him with him. We hear you have a son. And well, I do have a son, and he's of that age, but you can see he's got a broken leg. Okay, well, all right, he can't go. See what I'm saying here? The way we react to perceived good news or bad news sometimes is over the top. Not to discount emotion, and nobody likes to get bad news. However, like this proverb or fable or whatever you want to call it, whether something is good or bad, that's big picture stuff. And so many times, even I think it's more so now than ever, we are into a snapshot. The snapshot is, "Oh, this is horrible." This reel, it lasts 30 seconds. This is horrible. This thing in my life. Why me? Why me? Woe is me. When many times it ends quite differently. I can think of many situations. As I heard this proverb a long time ago, and I heard it again the other day. And the thing is, I hear it differently because different things have happened in my life. I immediately thought when my truck got stolen on Christmas Day, "Oh, that's horrible." Maybe. Turned out to be great. Turned out I got a great settlement. I got a better truck. The timing of that payoff worked perfectly with the timing of other things. But if you look at it, they've got his truck stolen. Oh, bummer, dude. Maybe. So a lot of these things, and I can think of different times in my life when you look at when something happened that could be considered great. Maybe. And so that's what I want to talk about today, because we have many things, and it's, I feel like a 30-year-old. I'm not. I'm twice that. However, I still think of certain things like a young man. One thing when I am at my best, or I'll just say not at my worst, is when I take things in stride. Not that I put up with it. Nobody likes bad news. Everybody likes good news. However, the highs and the lows, they don't have to be quite so high or quite so low. And so let's just think about some of this. I thought of some things in my life that just generalities, but I want you to be thinking of things in your life that at the time it was devastating. However, it turned out all right. or maybe even better because that devastating event happened. Jobs. I remember my first job, I was a marketing director for an inventor. Wow, incredible opportunity. And when that job came to an end, I was devastated. But the timing of it was perfect because I was getting a little bit too big for my britches. Here I am, right out of college, got married, moved to the spreading metropolis of Paducah, Kentucky, marketing director. What are you kidding me? Man, I've got life by the tail. Well, I needed a little humility. And you know what Mom said about humility? Don't pray for that. The learning curve is tough. So, I can think of other people who lost a job, and they felt like they were defined by that job. And they lost it. Well, they found so much more. Most cases, and then some people will hold on to it for other reasons, but bad news, maybe, but you can get on with something else. And I believe things happen for a reason when they happen for a reason. But losing a job, yeah, it can be an opportunity. Could be bad news. Maybe. I know people who I don't know them personally, but I've heard the stories when they win the lottery. Oh, fantastic. Look at that. I've got it. All my problems are solved. Oh my goodness, you hear the stories. That turns out to be one of the worst days of their life because now people see them differently. They see people differently. Some people do well. Other people, it brings an unexpected level of stress that you couldn't comprehend and you sure couldn't anticipate. And most of them, they talk about how it's damaged all the relationships. It's not that, people expect you to give them part of it, but the jealousy, that's one of the biggest things that damages a relationship. When you win the lottery, your friends are going to be, so that's the end of a lot of good things. So winning the lottery, that's great news. Maybe. If I win the lottery, I've seen those memes where I'm not going to tell anybody I won the lottery, but there'll be signs. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm going to have some really nice stupid things that I buy. I do that now. I looked at my doing taxes at it's the new year. You do your taxes for last year, and so I was just looking at a couple of things I bought for businesses because I was gonna write that off. Heck yeah, you write it off. Well, I also, as I was scrolling through my Amazon purchases for the past year, oh my goodness, I've got a serious problem. Some of the stuff I buy, it's ridiculous. But anyway, there would be signs that I won the lottery. I have friends. I have a lot of single friends, male and female. And so I've been through a lot of breakups by proxy. My wife and I, we just keep chugging away, man. We just had our 44th Valentine's Day. How about that? 44. But I've been around people who go through breakups, and it's devastating. Oh, it's devastating. And then, there's nothing quite like that new relationship, I hear. And, you go through it, and male and female. And don't think men handle breakups better than women. They just handle them differently. However, that new relationship, oh, that spark. You love that. Oh, this new person. Oh, they seem perfect. But that breakup, it's, oh, that's horrible. Well, maybe. Once you find that new person, what's his name? I forget about that. However, at the time, it's devastating. But it is also an opportunity. And you look back, the bad thing is, one thing I've learned, I've been with my sweet Stephanie for these many years. I have learned over time, one thing you do not do when one of the friends has a breakup, you don't badmouth that person. No, you just keep quiet and let them go because they may get back together. And then look who is the bad guy. So breakups, that's another one. It's horrible. Maybe. And even the small things. I've thought a couple of situations just on, a car breaks down. There's a lot of different accounts of like cars and airplanes, but a car breaks down. That's bad luck. Yeah. Well, that was something minor. It broke down, you fixed it, but while they were fixing it, they noticed something major. I can remember I was on the way from Russellville, Alabama to Red Bay. I know you know where all these places are. Just back country farmland, and ran out of gas. This is in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And I don't know why, but I had these shoes. They weren't made for walking. They look like wicker. And so I'm walking on this backcountry road. I know about a mile and a half, 2 miles up, there is gas station. And so here I go. I get gas. And the guy is a guy there asked me where I'm going. He said, I'll take you back to your car. And so he told me, thank goodness, man. It was in the summertime. I remember it was so hot, and my wicker shoes were coming apart. Well, we got back, and it was his gas can. That's why he was gonna get his gas can back. He wasn't just being nice. However, as I was pouring the gas in the tank, he said, "You know your tire here's got he said, you got a bad spot." I think he called it a hot spot or whatever. My front tire was ready to blow, and he spotted that. If I hadn't ran out of gas, I could have had a blowout and hurt somebody else or hurt myself. But because I had that bad luck of running out of gas, and I said some bad words, I had to ask forgiveness for a lot of the stuff I said on the way to that gas station. However, that particular man came back with me to get his gas can. He might have saved my life by noticing that hot spot on that tire. Went up, got it fixed, everything was fine. So what seemed to be, why me? Why now? Bad news? Maybe. Turned out to not be. And I've got a dear friend whose flight was delayed, and he didn't get he had to take a different flight. And I've heard this many times. The flight he was supposed to be on was one of the ones on 9/11. He would have been on that flight. I've heard many times people's plans didn't work out. It's bad news. No. It would have been life-changing or life-ending if it had worked out that way. A lot of disasters are averted because of bad news. Yeah. There's I know some people who have been injured. They're doing some sporting activities or work related, but they get injured. Okay, that's bad news, right? But while they go to the doctor and they get checked out, they notice something else that they wouldn't have found otherwise. And then I've also, sadly, some situations where people get the bad news. They have a disease. They have something like cancer or something is noticed, and they give you bad news that you've got this potentially life-threatening situation. That's bad news. Maybe. However, caught it early. How many times do you hear people saying, look, if we hadn't caught this when we did, this would have happened. Whether it's an aneurysm or a blockage or something like that. The fact that they caught it is good news. The fact that you had it's bad news. However, the timing is impeccable. At work, how many times at work did you not get that promotion? How many times? It's bad news. Is it? It's disappointing. It's disheartening. However, a lot has come from that. I've told the story when I was with MSC and my position got put on hold. I was ready to quit. It's bad news. 6 months later, I got the position. The timing wasn't right 6 months earlier. So it wasn't bad news. It's just wait a little while. Let's see how this works out. Look at the rest of the story. That promotion changed my life. If it had happened 6 months earlier, it might have ended my career. I know people who, things like unexpected pregnancies. Oops, whether you're married or not. There's nothing like a child. And then you've got the timing. There's, we're not in charge of all this stuff. Thank goodness I am not in charge of my life and the way it intermingles with fate. But so many times, know people who've, they didn't plan on it. Maybe they got 4 kids and now we got another one. Well, they found out what causes that, dude. But anyway, it can be life. It's overwhelming and all the. But hey, is it bad news? Maybe. I don't know. I can tell you, with me and my friends and I, in college. Oh, everything from, skipping a class to failing a test, all this stuff. At that point in your life, it's devastating. I know people who were in the wrong major, but they were majoring something they felt like they had to, or their peer pressure, or their parents were forcing them to do something. And because they did something or something happened that knocked them out of that, which is devastating. Bad news? It turned out to be now they're in something they were meant to be. And that was a defining moment that put their life on the right course. And then later, they will actually go back. It's interesting how you can go back in your life and point at seemingly, in the grand scheme of things, seemingly insignificant things when you look at everything. But that was a turning point. That was a turning point. And most turning points from me has been bad news. Maybe. It has. Because I am stubborn. I am so stubborn. I get my mind made up. I'm doing this. I'm doing it no matter what. I got references on this stubbornness. I get it from my mom, bless her heart. However, that's it. So you got to get my attention, and boom. We'll talk about faith in a minute, but I'm very religious. I live in a constant state of talking to somebody, and I'm alone a lot, so I have to talk to God. But it's like, okay. I remember big decisions I would make. I have a different relationship with the Lord. I talk to him like he's my buddy, or good or bad. I will fuss at him. What? Why? What are you doing? Are you not paying attention here? But I would say, look, I want to do this. If that's not the right thing to do, close that door and deadbolt it. And put some furniture behind it, because I'm going to try to jimmy the lock. That's how stubborn I am. Thankfully, I am not in control of stuff like that. But I mean, you look at, and people talk about, they have a weird relationship with the supernatural. And they see these natural disasters. I mean, can you get any more, I'll call it ironic, where you got the West Coast that's on fire and the East Coast is going through snowstorms? Just fold the country in half, and one will take care of the other. I mean, it's crazy. And so people, at the floods in North Carolina, it's, God, what are you doing? Why? Well, bad news. Sometimes you have to really look, and sometimes it is bad news. I mean, there's no way around that sometimes. However, just wait and see. I mean, my goodness, you have earthquakes, and you have fires, and then you have rain, and then you have mudslides. And then the mudslides fill in the cracks that the earthquake caused. That's California. I lived there for 20 years. I know. Just wait. A lot of bad news out there. But sometimes that makes you tougher. Some of the strongest people I know live in the Mississippi Delta or along the Gulf, and they get flooded out. They get hurricanes. They get tornadoes. These are some of the most resilient people. You could say They got a lot to learn. Why rebuild? You're just going to flood again. That's why they build their houses on stilts. Hello? This foundation is different than normal housing. You know that, right? They're strong. They're resilient. They're usually closer knit as a community. Yeah. And then some, it's just a new beginning for them. It's part of it. So bad news to one person is not necessarily bad news to another. However, you gotta wait and see. Just like the Chinese farmer. What seemed like bad news, maybe not. So that's, I think, some of the lessons around this. And when I am, we'll say, not at my worst, these lessons resonate with me a little more. And I think the most simple one is, let's just don't rush to judge events in your life. You know, of course, the obvious one is what seems bad or good at first, it could turn out totally differently over time. And I think part of the notion would be to get the emotion out of it. Now, my wife, bless her heart, there's a saying that we've always said about her, my kids and I. It is never too soon to panic. Oh, all is lost. All is lost. That's it. You know, she's like the person who, you know, a pick six in football against your team. Well, we're gonna lose. Well, that's the first play of the game, darling. Let's give it, you know, 4 3/4 quarters. You know, come on. Never too soon to panic. That's the thing about this. Let's try to remain calm and understand. I don't have to figure this out right now. I don't have to make my judgments right now. Whether it's you lose a job, you fail at something, or something unexpected changes what you had planned. You know, stay open to the possibility that, okay, this is just a chapter here. Now, it's easy for me to say right here on this podcast when it's not happening I'm not in the heat of the moment right now. However, looking back, that's the thing about experience and resilience. You learn this. I exhibit this better with bad news for my kids or people at work or my wife. I exhibit a calm, but in my mind I'm thinking, all right, okay, my goodness. I can be calm on their behalf because I need to in that situation. I am not as good at that on my own behalf when something happens. I'll stomp around, I'll kick something, I'll have a pity party, and then, all right, let's see what happens. And then I'll start to plan. All right, what are my options now? And usually they come readily. A lot of the times I've made a choice to go this way when I should have gone that way. All right. When something happens, I think after I kick something and have a pity party and feel sorry for myself, I know immediately, all right, let's go back and go that way. Sometimes it's not that cut and dried. You know, when something happens. However, don't rush to judgment. And then it's hard to do. I like things planned. I'm not as bad as I used to be. But to be able to embrace uncertainty, change used to really bother me. And then I got to the point, I was in a company where there were so many options. I got to put on so many different teams. Then I got to lead teams. Then I got to go to areas I didn't know about and actually work with teams that were struggling and hopefully, and most of the time, turn them around and make them prosperous. They're doing better. And it's fantastic. I love that. I was the fixer. It's fantastic. So that broke me from not liking change. It got to the point to where there's certain people when they called me, not an email, a call. Okay. They only call when they need something or they got a project for me. Or they'll ask me, what are you doing next week? It's Thursday. What are you doing next week? It's like, I don't know. You tell me. That was the one. So embracing change or uncertainty, it was exciting. It was exciting, especially in business. In your personal life, that's when uncertainty either pulls you closer together or separates you. Hopefully it pulls you closer together. But looking at this uncertainty, it's a setback for now. In order to go do this wonderful thing in a few months, we may have to cut back a little for the next few weeks. But that uncertainty, learn to embrace it. Nobody likes embracing bad news, but I'm talking about if you don't have everything planned out, when something comes up, okay, all right, let's go for it, or let's make this decision. So that's a good way to temper the pain of good or bad news. And then and what it does, and I mentioned it about the natural disasters, but emotional resilience, I talk about resilience all the time. That emotional resilience, that keeps you, once you build that up, that keeps you from flying off the handle, or all is lost, or blah blah blah, whatever the case may be. Whether it's good news or bad news, you can take it. You can take it. Now, I know people I look at in awe because they've had so much bad news. I mean, it's the loss of loved ones, sickness. I know some modern day Jobs, and they are the last ones to complain and the first ones at your door if you need help. These people are emotionally resilient. Now, who knows what's going on the inside? I think they're probably in a good place, but they've been tempered with things, and that's great. Whether it's, you can look at things now that we look at bad news and worldly stuff, like, economic stuff, downturns in the economy, pricing, inflation, all this going on. At one time, it's no big deal. At another time, if you're going through a career change or a relationship problem, or it's hard to maintain your composure. But once you have emotional resilience, all right, okay, here's what we do. It's like, I remember I used to go sailing. I think 2 or 3 times. My buddy Larry, who lives in Mexico now, he's from Kansas City. I think he's from Kansas City. So right in the middle of the country. He's a sailor. We worked together out in California. And, he lived in the Bay for a while and learned to sail. And so when I talk about emotional resilience, I think of Larry, not necessarily in his real life, his personal life, although he is very emotionally resilient. As we would sail, though, he's very calm demeanor. And we'd be sailing, and I would I want to help. What do I do? Woo! I can't believe I'm on a boat. Look at this. I'm looking around like a kid in a candy store, and I want to help him. But he's constantly, and he would casually say, pull that rope over there a little bit. I'll tell you when that's enough. And I would pull into it. Yep, that's good. But very calm. And he would say, when you get a chance, do this. And he would say, okay, I'm going to do this. And that sail, I don't know what it's called, that's going to come across. So you may want to duck. You may want to. Otherwise you can be swimming here in a second. But what he would do, as he's sailing, he's enjoying it. You just see the look on his face. But he'll notice something. He's looking up just casually, seeing the wind changes. He may look at a wave or something in the water. All this is going on, and he's at the back of the boat, managing everything as it comes. He's anticipating certain things, and he's giving me very clear, simple instructions that really needs to happen. And he's trusting me to do these slight little things. And I'm sure in his mind, he's got a backup plan if I screw it up. So, yeah, if Dave panics, the minnow won't be lost. So that's what I think of when I think of emotional resilience in dealing with good or bad news. Some of the stuff you anticipate. Okay, this might happen. And if it does, here's what I'm going to do. I'm notice this. Oh, this is great. That's what I want to see here. Okay. But You've got the ability to, when something happens, to handle that and not let it disturb everything else. That's what our goal is with good and bad news. And the thing is, you can't just be emotional at the very beginning, because then you miss the lesson. Then the lesson is, it wasn't bad news. It was preparing you for something better, or preparing you against some real bad news. So that emotional resilience is so important. And then you learn over time what you can control and what you can't. If what you can't, just let go. Okay, all right, my horse ran away. All right, I guess we'll do this by hand. I guess we'll walk into town. I guess we'll do this. Maybe we won't go to town. You got to let go. You can't let it sink your ship. And then the thing to remember, and part of emotional resilience, is understanding this is the now. Good or bad, it doesn't last forever. And so many times, a lot of times, I have had what I thought was bad news, and it turned out to be perfect timing. Everything. I've actually felt guilty a couple of times, because other people, they're struggling, and my bad news turned to good news. And it's almost like, wow, I didn't really deserve that, but I am so grateful. Either way, it's temporary. You've got to build some humility. And if you're struggling, just know it's going to pass. You're going to get through this, and you're going to come out stronger. If you get great news, I'm not saying that will pass. What I'm saying is, enjoy every second of it, because it's not going to last forever, good or bad. It's temporary. And then ends that bad news. And this is some things I learned from my parents, and of course Papa, is even in bad news, perceived bad news, there's some hidden opportunities in here. Hidden opportunities. This happened, so we'll have to do this. With Papa, I know on the farm, he taught me so many lessons that I've used in life. But things broke down a lot. I mean, a lot of his equipment sat in a barn for 30, 35 years. Well, a lot of that was getting that to work again. But a lot of times we would start a project and something would happen. And, we're going to go out, and I remember he would put the axe and sledgehammer and some wedges and a chainsaw in the back of the truck. And we're going to cut down some trees and get some firewood together, which was so much fun, but it was so much work. Well, a lot of times, the saw wouldn't start, or the head of the axe came off, or he broke an axe handle. Well, we do things. And some of the times we had when we were either fixing stuff, a tractor breaking down in the middle of the field, the things that happen because of that are memories that I'll never forget. I met new people. You hear new stories. Some of the conversations you have would not have happened if this bad news hadn't happened. So there's hidden opportunities a lot of times. And then I don't have advice per se. I've got 110 podcasts full of no advice, right? What I have learned is, don't be attached to outcomes. Don't be attached to outcomes. If you need something to be a certain way, there's where stress comes in. What if it doesn't? What if it does? What if I'm not good enough? What if somebody else lets me know? What if don't be attached to outcomes, whether it's business or personal or playing golf, big things, little things. Don't be attached to the outcome, because that outcome may not be what's best for you. And if you're so attached to that outcome, you're not going to enjoy, chances are, you're not going to enjoy that journey as much, because you're all focused on the end. It's on the end. I drive a lot, and I have learned to love a good 5-hour drive through California or Nevada or Utah. It's just so beautiful. Well, when I was growing up, anything more than 30 minutes was a chore. It was horrible. And you know who it was worse for? My dad, because I was a talker. Hey, look at that. Oh, wow, what's that? Hey, Dad, how many more towns do we get there? Hey, what are blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I was focused on every little thing. My dad was just focused on the outcome. Just get me past this, get through this. Now, I've learned to enjoy as we go. It's not as tight. If this happens, okay. If this happens, all right. And I'm not bragging on myself because I went through a lot of detesting the journey because I wanted to get to the outcome. I missed out on a lot. And if I'm focused being there at this time and this is going to happen and all this is weighing on the outcome, it creates some problems. So we'll talk more on the outcomes in a second. The thing is, and I preach this, gratitude. No matter how bad it is, there's something to be grateful for. Do I always do that? Well, hopefully I always get to that point. However, when bad news hits, it's hard to be grateful in that moment. It really is. However, like we've said, so many blessings in disguise, even if it is truly bad news. What can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? Instead of, why me? Oh, why me? And it's often said, well, it could be worse. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, that's very comforting. Thank you, sir. Yes, it could be worse. It could be raining. Yeah. But there's always something to be grateful for. And then, almost like don't put all of your stock in the outcome. Also understand, don't get stuck in the past. Don't get stuck in the future. You're going to, I've got a really solid podcast coming on, attention getters. And that means, hey, if you're not focused on your priorities aren't where they should be, something's going to get your attention. Something is going to get your attention. And that's why let's focus on now. What can we do today? Stop and smell the flowers. Or, man, put on your work boots and get to it. Or tell somebody you love them. Give somebody a hug. Whatever. Be in the moment. Another one coming on that. Your presence is a present. That's coming up, either next one or the following. But also, we talk about trust. Trust the flow, man. I don't know. I'm a religious person. I don't act like it a lot of times. I'm sorry about that. I don't know who I'm saying I'm sorry to. Probably my mom. I don't talk to Jesus. I talk to Mom. She talks to Jesus. That's how my prayer life changed when Mom died. I know she will be a worthy representative. That's like a song. I don't talk to Jesus. I just talk to Mama. Oh, I'm going to write that when we get through here. But anyway, trusting that flow. So whether you are religious, you believe in God, you have faith, or it's karma. Be a good person. Good things happen to good people. Bad things happen to bad people. Eventually. It's not up to me to keep score. Or if it's just, a whole nature loving, being right with the world and the eternal balance, or if you're Buddhist or Hindu or whatever. I believe that is important. It's very important to me. But also, life has its rhythm. Thinking back, life has its rhythm. Sometimes it's fast-paced, sometimes it's slow, sometimes everything's going well, and then boom, there's a bump that gets your attention. You have to address it. Sometimes you're going uphill. Sometimes it's downhill, and whee! But trust that flow. Everybody has in mind how they'd like for things to unfold. It's going to change. And don't force outcomes that aren't what's best for you. And yeah, sometimes you don't know what's best for you. We all learn that lesson one way or another, and I've learned it a lot. And sometimes I forgot it and had to learn it again. When you be a good person, you do the right thing. You put in a good day's work. You're good to people. You love people. You let people love you. Things will evolve as they should. You can be intentional toward goals, of course, but don't be so tied up in the outcome to where when something goes wrong, you lose your composure because people are watching. So faith plays a role. I don't know how people get through life without faith in something. I mean, knowing that there's some sort of plan for me gives me comfort. You know, I think people pray a lot. What is that? Help me to, if you're doing the things you're supposed to do according to a plan, things are going to turn out okay. They usually have happy endings until somebody screws it up. But there's lessons out there that we have to learn, and that's it. But faith plays such a role to know that I'm a part of something. There's this massive puzzle, and I'm a piece of that. That gives me comfort. You talk about, you hear it talks about a ton, finding your why, your purpose in life. Who is it said there's two, there's two great moments. One is finding your why, and then what? Oh, two things. The day you're born, two dates, the day you're born, and then the day you understand why. That's important. And faith plays a big role in that. Yeah, another thing I would say you have to have faith to do this is surrendering all of your selfish wants. It's not all about you. It's not. And you find, and you're told this as a kid, but it's more blessed to give than receive. Okay, I get that. However, you learn that in life. And it does feel good. It's great. And it pays. It's a great investment. You're going to get a good return on that good deed, on that good thought, on that holding your temper, on that not getting emotionally wrecked when you get bad news. Just hold on. It'll pay you back with either understanding why something bad happened or realizing it wasn't bad at all. Maybe, But faith is a teacher. Faith builds resilience. A lot of people, and this man, I could preach right now. I don't have the hair to be an evangelist, but I could preach right now on a lot of people. They don't have faith in God or their beliefs, or they just have faith in their faith. I can't tell you how many people will on one hand talk about how, you got to have faith. You got to have faith. God is in control. And the next second, they're worried sick about something, just wringing their hands. Oh, really? Where did that strong person go? He was here a minute ago. Faith is important, and you have to surrender. How many times you sit in a chair? You just plop down in the chair. You got faith that thing's going to hold you up. My goodness, these people jumping out of a perfectly good airplane, they got faith in a lot of mechanisms. I don't want to pack my parachute. I'll tell you that. I don't have that much faith in my ability. And the whole knot tying and pulling the rip. That's faith. Some people say that's crazy, but that's a lot of faith. That's faith in surrender to someone else or something else. I am struggling. One thing in my life I'm struggling with, and you can tell a lot of times by what my podcast topics are, what I'm struggling with. Patience, man. Patience. And sometimes when I get bad news, it's a setback, and it's not that I didn't get my way sometimes, or it's not that it didn't go according to plan. Sometimes I'm just not patient enough to learn a new lesson right now. I'm working here. Patience is tough. When there is a delay, I was delayed the other night, 30 minutes. 30 minutes. My flight was delayed. I was ready to get home. I've been in Alabama all week. I'm ready to get home and see my wife, and my dogs. 30 minutes. You got to be kidding me. I've been gone for 2 weeks. 30 minutes? Dave, calm down. It's okay. At least your flight's not canceled. You know what? And you probably 30 minutes later is going to make a big difference in traffic once you get there. You know what? It's good that your flight's delayed 30 minutes because you're probably going to get home quicker because of all blah, 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 blah. Hard for Dave. Patience. And then I talked earlier about the gratitude in all circumstances. This is, some people are born with this. Some people learn it, and some people never do. I was either born with it or learned it early. We didn't have a lot, but my mom, she taught me to be grateful. I remember I had, it was 5 of us. I got 2 sisters, and when we would, I remember shrimp night. Occasionally we would have shrimp. Oh, well, Dad worked all day, and so he was hungry. But on shrimp day, she had a couple of boxes of frozen shrimp. I forget the brand, but frozen fried shrimp. And I loved them so much. There's 5 of us. She would count those out, and everybody would get an equal amount. This is my mom. I mean, she everything had to be equal. She couldn't do more for one kid than the other. I remember it was horrible when we had kids. We had my 2 sisters and I each had 2 kids. Well, when we moved away and would come home, we had to split the time equally between Steph's parents' family and my family, and it was rough. But everything had to be equal. Also, she taught in that rationing gratitude. At least you have this. When you wanted this and you wanted the dessert or you wanted the fries or you wanted whatever, be grateful for what you got. It ain't much, but it's better than nothing. She taught that lessons every step of the way. If it's raining, but look here, it's what you get to do. You can't do this any other time but when it's raining. Isn't that exciting? It would be something as simple. I remember it would rain, and she was a genius. I had 2 sisters. We're in the house. We can't go out and play. Maybe in the summertime. Oh, it's rough on Mama. She would actually, I remember that she would put 3 glasses. We should have us put a glass on the little back stoop area where it was raining, and it was a race to see whose glass would fill up quickest. And she had 3 kids for an hour just staring at the glasses. Genius woman. And I was so grateful for this game. It only happens. You can only play this game when it rains. Yeah. Quite a teacher. Then, another thing that faith gives you is that inner peace. Everything's going to be all right. This may suck, but everything's going to be all right. During all the uncertainty, I can tell you, I'm not going to get emotional here, if at all possible. My mom died of a horrible disease in 2018. I mean, it was protracted. It was long, 10 plus years. But at the end, it got to the point to where, she couldn't even communicate. And my mom's a talker. She couldn't communicate. She couldn't cook. All these horrible things. So that's awful. My dad's going through a tough time now. I go stay with him every 6 to 8 weeks, stay with him for a week, and he doesn't know who I am, and he says things that are, it's a horrible disease. Hate it. And I'm using the word hate. But it's, the whole time when my mom died, it's like, oh my goodness, she's the rock. Why? And several times when I've gone back to talk to Dad and spend time with him, I realized she had to go first. She didn't have to go in that way. She taught us so many lessons, how she handled that disease that, just unbelievable. But my mom would not be able to see my dad in this shape. That's why she went first. And my dad was sickly. And then all of a sudden he took care of her, and he's 86. He said this past week, I never thought I'd be this old. I didn't think you would either. However, the timing. My mom could not see Dad in this shape. My mom would not have been able to handle COVID. or a lot of the things that have happened recently. Now, she could have handled it. However, it would have been tough on us watching her struggle with life events in the past few years, and definitely couldn't see my dad. So things happen, and you have that inner peace when you're going through it. If you have faith that, all right, I'll get through this. We'll get through this. And there's a lesson we're going to draw on this. A lot of times when people are going through a tough time, you wonder why. You wonder why. When you're going through a tough time, you wonder why. Why me? Why now? And then on the other side, it's because someone else is going to go through it, and you can have some words of encouragement. You can be their rock, and it's therapeutic for you to help that person. You couldn't do it if you hadn't been through that. So a lot of wisdom and resilience comes through that. And having hope, yeah, and you know I have a definition for hope. The whole thing, without faith, I don't know, if faith in something, I don't know how you hold on. I mean, if you're just going to be worm dirt when you die, well, what's the use in being moral? What's the use in helping people? What's all that for? And so if you have that purpose and that faith, okay, that builds resilience in challenges. Okay, all right, okay. I'm not tied to the outcome because I don't know what the outcome is. I am tied to the plan. I'm tied to what I'm supposed to do. And what I'm supposed to do is be the best me I can. I need to be an example. People are watching. And so I've got faith that if I do my best, everything's going to turn out all right. And this is just a test. It's a little bump in the road. You know, humility and patience, tough learning curve. However, that humility is just as important with good news as it is with bad news. You know, being humbled by bad news, that makes it a little easier. But when the floodgates open and everything's great, understand. All right, good news, maybe. Let's see how I handle this. How many people do you know, and it may be you, it has been me, where maybe finances are tough, and you're really cutting back. And if I can just make it to this date, I'll be good. Okay? All right? You may throw a little prayer up every now and then. Oh, please help me make it till that date. Okay? That date comes, and boom, now you're okay. You can get by. And then, something else happens, and now here's a little more money. Maybe, I remember Mom used to go, when Mom or Dad got jury duty, we're going to go out and eat. Or taxes come back, and we get we're going to go to Bonanza. You know, okay, how many times have you done this? You make it to that date, and you get a little extra money. Well, if I got some found money, I think why not blow it on this? You start being less disciplined. Success sometimes is tougher when it comes to humility than disappointment or bad news. So have humility in success. And then overall, if I can do this, it's a big thing. Live in the present and trust and have hope for the future. Tomorrow, I'll have a plan, and I have faith and trust with a smattering of hope. I'll be able to handle anything that comes my way. It's important. Something's going to get your attention if you're overreacting to good and bad news, or if you think you've got this all figured out. So your perspectives can change in a heartbeat. You know, having faith in something is important. It strengthens your resolve and your resilience and able to handle the bad news, maybe. And then, there's a lot to be said for handling things well so that other people see that. You fall to pieces, other people will fall to pieces. Now, there's times I fall to pieces. Anytime I have to put a pet down, I fall to pieces. And I almost feel like I feel bad for myself, but I've put dogs down that they were suffering, and I'm glad I did it when I did. Still hurts, and a lot of that's for me. So when you do something and you're told no, the thing is with my mom or with pets or with other loved ones, when the end is rough and it's bad news when they go, it is. However, to say they're in a better place or they're not suffering anymore, that is the same way as a lot of things in our life. Sometimes bad things happen. All right, that's part of life. What good can I take out of it? All right, good things happen. All right, let's see. Let's manage this well. I am fortunate in this regard. Let's manage it. Let's not let the emotions go too crazy. Have faith that things are going to turn out. All right, be a good person. That's so key. And then realize this is just a snapshot. It may be a reel, now that we do reels, but it's just a section. It will pass. Don't be tied to outcomes. I hope this has helped. It helped me working through this just because it's a good reminder, like that Chinese farmer. Good news, bad news, maybe. Let's wait and see. I'm going to do my best either way. There's no quit. Good news or bad news. All right. Thanks so much for joining. I appreciate it. The support has been fantastic. Reach out to me at david@otalks.com or dave@otalks.com. Hit otalks.com. We got some stuff going on there. It's February now. Some big, subtly big changes coming in March. We'll announce those when they come. And then, hey, I turned 60 in March. Giddy up. But thanks for the support. Thanks for Talking with Dave. Giddy up.